Hey everybody,
Hi.
how you doing?
Hope you're all doing well.
This is Bob,
And Jenna.
and long time ago, we promised people who donated to us a private podcast,
Yes.
and we never fulfilled on that promise until now.
Because we're slackers.
No, it isn't that we're slackers. It's that we're busy people.
We're busy. Yeah.
Running a vegan media empire is a lot of work.
It is.
No, it's not that we are slackers. It's that every time we thought about doing it, we didn't. And we sat down and do it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up doing things we didn't like.
Yeah, it
So we
didn't
ended
come
up
out
chucking
well. Yeah.
So I don't know, but we did think we should make good on our promise, even though we made it to you many months ago, and here we are doing
Yeah.
a special little private podcast for donators only.
Because we really, really appreciate your help. I mean, without your help, we really wouldn't be in a position to do what we do. So
That's
Thank
absolutely
you.
true. Without the support that we got, and we've gotten generous support from many of you, well, from all of you, because you're all listening. Without your generous support, we certainly would not be in the situation that we're in now, which is to say that. You helped us grow, you helped us out a lot, you helped us get some equipment and some services and some other stuff that we needed to really make this thing work. And I think without your help early on and all throughout, we certainly wouldn't be in a position that we're in right now. And we appreciate it so much.
definitely.
And, you're to be commended because it's not like you had to give any money to get
No,
the show.
not at all.
And we really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. And it means a lot to us to know that you care enough to send the very best. That you care enough to, cash is the very best, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
That you care enough to send us cash. And it means it's great. And, one of the things that's been great about it is that we get a lot of email where people tell us that this show has helped them go vegan or stay vegan
Mm-hmm.
or feel less lonely as a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we didn't get money, I think that's why I would still keep doing it. Even if we had to pay money, I would still keep doing it that way.
I agree.
Because it's really important, I think, to help people out.
It is. Definitely.
Um,
So,
yeah. Well, anyway, we thought what we would do is originally we promised we would send you these in the mail, but then I realized that probably wouldn't work really well because, we're slackers. Let me tell you what we're going to do. You already know what's going to happen. You've gotten an email about this already, so you'll know that you're getting this. We will get buttons out to all of you too, which we did promise. So
okay.
What?
Cool. Yeah. All right.
we are going to.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I know.
So what?
Nothing.
You want peace?
No.
All right. I didn't think so. So on this podcast, since it's kind of like for a smaller audience, we thought we'd talk about things that we may not normally talk about on the air.
Yep.
Like what, Jenna?
No, it's just like funny stories or more about us.
Yeah. I don't know if you really care to know more about us, but I think some people do. I mean, weird people write to me and ask me things about my regular life, and it's kind of strange. So, but I do want to share with you a story, though.
Yeah, which story?
A story.
Okay, tell us a story.
Well, it's not that happy of a story. The story is that I have this friend who is a really nice guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from the moment we went vegan, I don't think he's gotten it. He hasn't gotten there. He's not like with it.
Not at all.
He's a vegetarian though.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think he would be not cool with it. His wife's really cool with it.
Yeah, she loves cooking for us.
She does indeed.
I mean, she really gets a kick out of it and is so excited when we love her food. So
We do love her food too. She's
Yeah.
an amazing cook.
yeah.
But this friend of ours is a vegetarian, and when we first became vegan, he kept hinting all along, actually, not when we first became vegan, when we first came out with the book.
Mm-hmm. It was more that first came out of the book.
Yeah, it was when we first came out with the book. He kept hinting to us that maybe we were being a little too dogmatic,
Mm-hmm.
that veganism is such an extreme stance that perhaps it's just way too out there. And that in its dogmatism, it ignores people's feelings and all this other stuff. So he hinted at this a couple of times, and not wanting to get in an argument with him about it, I kind of just let it go. I did my centered, peaceful Bob. I just let it kind of drift away, right?
Right.
But one day we were at their place, and they had argued right before we came. So they had an argument right before we had shown up. And they were mad at each other, and as a result, this friend of ours was kind of ornery. He was really kind of pissy.
He was wound up, yeah.
He's wound up. He's a little wound up. And so we were hanging out with them for a little while, and we were upstairs and he showed us this little room he has where he meditates and stuff. And we were leaving the room and he stops us and says, "Do you know what?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm going to tell you now why I could never be vegan."
You're like, what do you say to that?
And, I hear that and I think, well, holy hell. So I say to him, "Look, man, if you want to tell me, that's fine, but you got to be sure you want to go here, because if you go here, I'm going to bring out the big guns." If you want to talk about this, fine, we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. We'll get into it. But if we are going to talk about it, we're going to talk, and I'm not going to hold back, and you're going to know why I think being a vegetarian is ridiculous, right? So at that point, he said, "Okay, well, I'll tell you, a little bit." And he kept saying things like, "Oh, I don't think it's so bad to drink the milk of a cow because you don't kill the cow." And then dinner was ready, so we got sidetracked after that. We kind of got cut short, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we ate dinner, and then after dinner, I was in the kitchen helping him prepare some tea, and he started in again about the veganism, and he basically said to me that he felt like it was too dogmatic, right? That it established these rigid boundaries for our diet,
Mm-hmm.
B, that it was going too far, and C, that eating the milk and eggs of an animal doesn't kill the animal. Which is completely absurd. If you're a vegan, you know that this is nuts because eggs and dairy depend upon the death of animals, right? I mean,
yes, so millions of millions of animals, and the suffering, not just the death, but the suffering.
Right, the death, the suffering, and all that. And so he said his essential argument came down to this after I pushed him. His argument was, look, we must respect suffering. We must respect suffering. So I'm like, great, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to live my life by an ethic that respects suffering,
Mm-hmm.
We must respect suffering, but we must first respect the suffering being inside of us. The first being that we should respect the suffering of is ourselves. And if that suffering being desires milk and eggs to be happy, then we should give in and respect the suffering inside of all of us.
It's so fucking selfish.
That's what I said. It's completely selfish because I said to him, look, the suffering that you feel for cheese is nothing compared to the suffering that a dairy cow feels when it is living its life 2 or 3 years, for 2 or 3 years when it could be living 20 years. It's nothing in comparison. There's not.
So the suffering of that calf who's not getting that milk because you are.
And the calf who's being killed for veal, right? I mean, this is all obvious stuff for us. And so I explained to him the dynamics behind veal production. I explained for him the dynamics behind dairy production. I explained to him how consuming milk is essentially supporting the slaughter of cows, right? Because they milk for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're just burnt and they're dead. They're sent to slaughter because they're non-productive. I told him that. I told him about how the suffering that he feels is nothing in comparison to the suffering that an animal feels who lives in a battery cage. Is nothing in comparison to a calf who can't even turn around because they're chained up for veal. And so, do you know what he did? He took me into his refrigerator. He took me by the arm and took me over to his refrigerator and opened the door. And he said, "Look in here. Look in here." And I'm looking in his refrigerator. So you see this? He grabs the milk out. Look, it's Horizon organic milk. I'm doing the best I can. This is organic milk. I said to him, I don't care if it's organic milk or not. The cows are still dying for that.
Yep. They're ridiculous.
And so the whole idea that we have to protect, our suffering animal inside of us is such bullshit.
I know. Plus, I heard him at one point say, but plus I really like cheese. It basically comes down to he's addicted to cheese. Really,
that's what it comes down to. And, he's the thing that kind of confuses me about it is that he's an extremely thoughtful guy. He's really sensitive. He's really thoughtful. He's so sweet. He's one of the nicest people I know. Yet, when confronted with this, he can't see beyond. He can't get his mind beyond this idea that it's okay to do what he's doing. He knows better, but he won't go there.
Yeah.
And that frustrates me.
Yeah.
And not only will he not go there, he gives me shit for going there.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's like if you want to admit your own inadequacies and say, okay, well, I can't get past it, I'm not going to, but then to give us shit for wanting to go there just because it makes him feel guilty.
I told him I had to live by my ethics. I mean, I told him, look, I see these animals suffering. Nobody needs dairy or meat to live. You can live optimally without dairy, without meat.
Better for you.
Yeah. No one needs it. You know? No one needs it to live. And given that no one needs it to live, I don't eat it. I don't consume it. There's no reason to. You know? It isn't that I wouldn't like to eat ice cream on occasion, you know? I really don't want to now. But when I became vegan first, I thought stuff still looked a little good to me, you know, when I first went vegan. Now it doesn't. It all looks like shit to me. But you know, it isn't that I do it because I don't like these products. I don't now I don't, but at the time I did. I do it because ethically speaking, it's the right thing to do.
It is indeed.
So he got really mad at me. We got into a pretty big argument. We were yelling, and I kind of lost it. I mean, I know I say not to lose it. I know I say to be patient, all this other shit, but I just had no time for it. I was just getting so annoyed. And he tried to argue that I paid too much attention to animals that were outside of our particular sphere. And what he meant was his cat was there on the floor and was meowing at me, wanted me to pick it up, and I didn't want to pick it up. I didn't want to pick the cat up. You know, I'm sitting there arguing with him. I don't want to pick up his cat. So the cat is meowing at me, and then the cat jumps up on me because the cat wants to be picked up. And he said, "You see, you're so obstinate. You're paying so much attention to your cause. You're paying so much attention to this presumption of rightness that you miss the animal that is right here in front of you, asking for your compassion." And then I get this line about how the presumption of rightness is the cause of every conflict. And then I said to him, "Isn't that a presumption of rightness too?"
Completely.
Isn't it a presumption that in fact your little maxim is right? Aren't you presuming that in fact, well, I am right that being right, that the presumption of rightness is in fact the cause of every conflict? It isn't in itself a presumption of rightness. So anyway, I'm just like, that's something I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time. And I don't want to be mean. I don't want to sound mean. I just don't want to be there. You know, I don't think it's I don't know why he decided to pick on me. But at the time, that was a couple months ago, it annoyed me so much that I really felt like I didn't want to talk to them again for a long time.
We haven't since.
Yeah, we haven't. And
well, they're also away for a while, but
they were gone for a long time. They were out of the country for a long time. And you know, I kind of feel bad about that, but on the other hand, it's like among the people that I know who are my better friends, I don't expect to be getting shit for being a vegan.
I know. I mean, I expect to get questions. Completely expect to get questions because a lot of people don't know and don't understand and really, you know, want to understand or at least are curious. And some people are just downright mean. But usually your friends or your family will ask you genuine questions, and you should answer them. And you know, if the circumstances are right, it's just you don't expect to be getting shit like that from people who say you're friends and people who don't eat meat because they say they don't, you know, they respect the animals and they don't want to eat meat. Well,
yeah. I mean, at that point, what good is it, right? If you know better, what good is it? And it just drove me batty. You know, I don't see any reason for it. I don't even know. Yeah. So it's the point now where I don't know. I kind of like dread hanging out with omnivores.
Me too. Me too.
Because they annoy me.
I know.
And they always want to start something too.
Yeah.
Not always, but often.
Yeah.
So the thing is people think it's going too far, right? People think it's like going way out there and going crazy and all this other stuff. But in a culture in which we kill and maim and destroy and torture so many animals simply for our own pleasure, it isn't going too far. It's doing what you have to do to protest that ridiculous system itself.
Completely.
Fucking completely ridiculous system. It's what you have to do. And to me, it wasn't like I had a realization that this is what I had to do if I really felt like I was going to live by my ethics. If I was going to live by a way that was true to me and true to myself, I had to do it.
Of course. And it was one of the best decisions we've ever made.
I totally agree.
I mean, I could not imagine right now living any other way. It's just awesome. Me
neither. Sorry, I'm yawning. I don't know. Every time we do the podcast, I start yawning.
It's because it's like we got a nice little corner over here, like the lamp's on. It's nice and toasty, the heat's on.
I think, isn't yawning an indication that you need more oxygen?
Yeah, maybe you're talking too much. I
talk too fucking much. That's why I don't breathe. I need to breathe on occasion. But...
yeah. But hanging out with omnivores is pretty much the norm up here because we really don't know that many other vegans.
Yeah, well, we should tell you about where we live.
Yeah. we live in this little town called Colton. Mm-hmm. And I think the top population... Well, here's how New York State is set up. We need to explain this. New York State has towns, but that includes what I think in other states would be townships.
Yeah.
So it's usually like a town, and then a lot of times there will be something, the center. So, for example, when we lived in Ithaca, we lived in the city of Ithaca, mm-hmm. and then there was the town of Ithaca, which is actually the township.
Right.
So there's like a city center and then town. So we live in Colton. It's not even big enough. There's like different gradations. Most of the smaller ones are called villages.
Yep.
We're not even too small to be a village.
We're a hamlet.
We're a hamlet. So we live in the hamlet, and the entire township has about, 1,200 people?
I think the whole town has 1,200 people.
Yeah. I think in the immediate area, it's more like a couple hundred.
I think there are 300 or 400 right where we live.
Right where we live in the hamlet.
Yeah. The township itself is really quite big. It goes into the Adirondacks.
Yeah, it's huge.
A lot of it is just forest.
Mm-hmm.
Really. I mean, a significant proportion of it is just forest.
Yep.
So, which is cool. I mean, we don't go down to the Adirondacks very often, but to me, it's nice to know that there is this extremely wild place mm-hmm. close by. And this end of the Adirondacks, we live in the northern end of it. We're about 15 miles as the bird flies from Canada, mm-hmm. more or less. And at this end of the Adirondacks is the underpopulated, underdeveloped end. It's the wildest end of the Adirondacks.
Yep.
And there are old-growth forests here. There are there's incredible natural beauty here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I mean, a block from our house, there's the start of a trail that's 3 miles through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really cool because we can walk the dog there all the time. In fact, in the summer, we take them there all the time. And if we get enough snow in the winter, we go snowshoeing, which has not happened this winter yet.
Not yet, but I think it will.
Yeah.
So we live in a place like that, which is really, knowing that there's all this natural stuff nearby. I don't use it often, but I'd like to know that it's there for some reason. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And New York State has a really cool clause in its constitution as well. In the constitution of the park, of the Adirondack Park. I mean, the Adirondack Park is actually one of the biggest natural preserves in the East Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's
I think
huge.
It's the biggest in the East Coast.
You look at it on a map in New York State, and there's this huge green splotch. It takes up most of northern New York.
And I think there's this thing called the Forever Wild Clause mm-hmm. that says that if you want to make any changes to the park itself, right, to the constitution of the park itself, mm-hmm. those changes have to go through 2 successive sessions in the state legislature.
Wow.
So you have to vote on the change, go back again for an election, and then
mm-hmm.
vote on it one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool because that means you can't have, a hasty legislature just all of a sudden decide they're going to open the thing up for development. So that keeps the Adirondacks relatively pristine, in this end of it. The other end, there's a lot of development and stuff, but up here, it's cool.
Yeah.
And that's what we like about living up here. There's a lot of natural beauty,
mm-hmm.
and we live for cheap. But the downsides to living up here are significant,
We don't go out to eat.
There's
ever.
Basically nowhere to go out to eat.
If we do, we end up going to Subway, which is kind of pathetic.
Yeah, you can't really go out for a romantic dinner at Subway, right?
No.
Hey, baby.
Let's go have a veggie delight.
Yeah. It could be like, come on, let's go out, have a nice dinner at Subway.
Yeah. I mean, there is a Chinese restaurant. It's like there's one takeout and then there's a buffet.
It does bring new meaning to the term shitty walk.
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, we could eat there. Technically, there are vegan things to eat, mm-hmm. but I don't see it. Why waste the calories?
It's really
that bad.
It's pretty bad food.
It always makes you feel a little funky afterwards.
It's very greasy. It's pretty bad. It's not all that exciting. I go there on occasion if I have a place to take if I need to take students out, or if I need to go out with my department or whatever, I'll go there. But it's pretty shitty food. Yeah,
there was an Indian restaurant and it closed.
Shut down. Very closed.
I think they used ghee anyway, so.
But they would make it without.
Yeah.
The other, that's the downside, and the upside to where we live, though, beyond the crazy wild, all that other stuff, is it's pretty quiet. It's mm-hmm. pretty peaceful,
mm-hmm.
and there's a town not far away where there's a co-op that sells a lot of vegan stuff.
We are incredibly lucky.
There's a health food store in town,
mm-hmm.
in another town about 10 miles away,
mm-hmm.
where we work, and so we're lucky in that regard.
Yeah, and for being as rural as we are, so we drive 10 miles and go to a co-op and an Asian grocery.
Oh, yeah, we have an Asian grocery, amazing. Yeah.
Thanks to, luckily, a lot of the small towns around here have colleges, so there's 2 towns with colleges, so
we have it. We have it better than most.
Yeah.
Than most rural folk. But
yeah, but it's funny because a lot of people like come to our town and they look around. We don't have any grocery stores. They're like, where do you go shopping?
Well, we gotta
drive 10 miles.
We've got a general store.
We have a general store.
We actually have a general store, and it looks like a general store. Like you go in, and it's a general store. Mm-hmm. Like you can buy hip waders if you're a fisher person, which I will never be, but you can buy that kind of stuff. I think you can buy ammo there.
Mm-hmm. You can buy bait. Yeah.
But you can buy all kinds of non-vegan stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
And they have deli stuff and canned goods and things like that. So, but yeah, that's where we live. And we both work, we've probably said this before, but we both work as university professors. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting job. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a polite way to put it.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it comes down to the day-to-day stuff, I do like my job a lot.
You do?
Yeah.
I do too.
It's just the whole extraneous bullshit that you have to deal with. In any job, really. I mean, no job's perfect.
No job is going to be perfect. But I have something of a sketchy reputation at work.
You do.
People don't like me at work. They really don't like me. I mean, I have a couple friends at work who can tolerate me. But excuse me. Oh, more lung earth balance. Sorry about that. We don't have a cough button. We're not that sophisticated. We could be, though, eventually. No, anyway, work. Oh yeah, right. So people at work, I'm kind of an odd figure at work. Here's the weird thing. If you get to know me in person, I'm actually not like evil and horrible. I'm a pretty nice guy.
You are.
Generally speaking, I'm not a real douchebag. But people at work think I'm some kind of like complete radical asshole who has a chip on his shoulder and a grudge to bear with everyone. Mm-hmm. And I really don't. Actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because the place we work at is really conservative.
Oh, extremely.
So, I mean, like when we lived in Ithaca, we were normal. You know? I mean, there are people way, way weirder than us.
Yeah, I would say we were pretty average there.
Right, we were average. Yeah. I mean, in terms of our politics, in terms of our, our appearance and everything. Here, we're freaks. Complete and total freaks.
And the thing is that, a lot of people think I'm disrespectful because I have a nose piercing and I'm a faculty member and I've got tattoos that are visible and I'm a faculty member and all this. Fuck them. Mm-hmm. It's the way I am. What can I do? I mean, I've got a PhD and I've got the qualifications. I'm good. I got the skills, right? I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know what I'm good at and I'm good at what I do. Mm-hmm. And, if it weren't for that, I'd probably be fired by now. Because they would have had, if I think they had any cause to fire me, they would have used it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I feel like it's crazy. The whole thing's nuts. Mm-hmm. So the reason, though, I should tell you, it's kind of a fun story.
Oh, yeah. You're going to tell this whole story?
I've told it before. Okay. Some of the people out there already know it. Don't you think I should tell it?
Oh, I guess.
You really don't want to?
Sure, go
Some
ahead.
people already know.
Okay.
The reason that I'm in kind of this position on campus is that a number of years ago, in 2004, in the spring of 2004, I had a blog, right? It was a political blog and 10 people read it, not like now actually, where people actually, hundreds of people read veganfreaks.org, not like now where we actually have a lot of readers. But in the past I had this blog and I got rid of it in the interim. And on this blog, a friend of mine had sent me this recruiting manual for the College Republican National Committee. And in this recruiting manual, it was written that the way to appeal to Latinos was not with numbers, not with facts, but with emotion. But with emotion, right? So, being emotional, I read this, and it bothered me because, this is a racist thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, racists always try to paint those who are different from them or those who have a different race as less than capable of emotion. I mean, less than capable of rationality, right?
Sure, and it's a particular stereotype of Latinos because you're all hot-blooded, right?
Right. So I got all hot-blooded, but really, I wrote this entry kind of as a joke. I mean, really. I wrote it.
It was a rant.
It was a rant, but it was a joke meant to poke fun at this whole thing, where I said that I thought that the college Republicans were racist and fascists, and I also said that, what did I say? I said they were racist and fascists, and that the Republican Party has policies that only benefit rich white fucks, and what else did I say? Do you remember?
Something about lowrider.
Oh yeah, I said, "Oh, I'm done now. I'm going to hop in my lowrider with my pregnant teenage girlfriend Maria." So I wrote all this stuff, and the pregnant teenage girlfriend Maria thing was meant to be like a joke, and I thought people would read that and understand, like, this is kind of a rant, a joke, and 10 or 15 people who read my blog read it and thought, "Haha, this is funny, right?" This is in December of 2003. I wrote this thing. So I'm doing this class on campus in the spring of 2004, and I have these students who are doing anti-racist work on campus. They're hanging up posters all over campus that are saying, people of color live 5 years, 10 years less than white people, and people of color are generally less well off than white. And they were hanging up a bunch of posters. Some of them were borderline offensive, probably, and to white people. And it was what they were doing. They're trying to create some conversation on campus about racism. And it was apparently working because people were talking about these posters. So one of the members of the college Republicans came to me and said, "Bob, I want you to tell your class to take those posters down." And I stared at this person and said, "No, I won't tell them to take the posters down. Why would I?" Are you okay, Jenna?
I'm fine.
All right.
I don't like to relive this.
I know. So I said, "No, I won't tell them to take the posters down. Why would I?" And they said, "Well, they're offensive." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry you're offended, but why don't you come to our class and talk to the class? Maybe they'll take them down if they know you're offended. Or why don't you send me an email and I will read it to the class and you can converse with them." And the person said, "No, I don't want to do that either. I want them down." I said, "Well, look, if you're not willing to talk about it, I ain't taking them down. I ain't telling my students to take them down. First off, it's a First Amendment thing. It's their freedom. It's their ability to do what they want, So this was like on a Tuesday. And then on a Thursday night, I get this call from a friend of mine in the middle of the night, a student of mine, who had my number. And he says, "Look, I just found these posters all over campus about you. They're calling you a reverse racist. They found your blog entry and they're talking about how you should be fired for what you believe." So the Republicans apparently got angry with me, started digging for information on me because I wouldn't tell my students to take these posters down, and then hung up posters all over campus about me, saying that I should be fired and that I'm a reverse racist and I hate white people and all such stuff. And I do. I should tell you for the record, I really do hate white people.
Yeah, he hates them so much he married one.
I call them white devils.
Yeah.
I do. I'm always running around yelling Latino power and all this other stuff,
Oh, yeah.
You fucking white devils. Okay, so, I'm kidding. So that began actually a really interesting phase in our life as well.
Oh, yeah. Interesting is a good way to put it.
Where the shit totally hit the fan.
Yeah.
They tried to have me fired, and the university kind of shit their pants, and they realized they couldn't fire me, and we ended up getting a lawyer just to protect our interests. And what else? It was ended up in a local paper because the local paper here is like, Mrs. Smith, cat stranded in tree is like a front page story. So this ended up in a local paper, about me hating Republicans and all that sort of stuff. And the chair of the county Republican committee called for me to be fired from my job and all this other stuff. And that was bad enough. And then we have this faculty email list where all the faculty can email each other, and they were emailing each other talking about how evil I was and how I misused the term fascist and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, people, you get a fucking clue. It was a blog entry, It
was a rant. I don't think they really understood the genre.
I don't think they understood the genre at all. I mean, it's all these 50-year-old, 60-year-old people who don't understand blogs, right? Who don't even understand how to fucking boot Windows, okay? No offense against 50 or 60-year-old people, right? But all these old farts who don't get how to get how to even turn on a computer and are suddenly trying to understand where this thing came from. And, I didn't say any of this stuff in class, and the students that brought the argument against me, they don't know who I am. They didn't know who I was. They were just using it for political means. So that happened, and then in March, I started to get these emails from various reporters around the country telling me, "Hey, look, the Republicans are trying to take this thing national. You should know." And I was like floored by that, right? I get this email from the AP and all this other stuff. So I find out later on that it is going to be in the opinion page of the Wall Street Journal, the op-ed page, that this is going to show up on the op-ed page. So it does. It ends up on the op-ed page, and there's this article about how Republicans are, discriminated against in the classroom and how evil all these professors are who don't respect Republicans' opinions and all this other shit. Ignoring the fact that, of course, I didn't do any of this in the classroom, ignoring the fact that this was done on private time, on private resources with a disclaimer, ignoring all of that. So that's when, we got death threats and the threats of violence and all that. So suffice to say, that whole thing convinced people that I was like some kind of complete radical, you know, and that I hated people and that I was this angry young man and all this other stuff. I'm really not all that angry. I mean, I get angry about things, but, you know, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was kind of scary.
I didn't think it was all that scary. I thought it was really fucking annoying.
It was scary in the fact that, you know, you could have lost your job because, I mean, we would have, you know, fought back and we had our lawyer and everything. But, I mean, the fact, and the death threats and all that, it was just way too much for me to handle. And they were targeting me because they put posters, you know, all around your building, and they put them only in one place and my building on my door.
That's true, they did.
So it was like, I don't know. I mean, in the months that this happened, I lost 5 pounds because I wasn't eating, because I was so stressed out.
That's not true.
It was true. I gained it all back. Of course, but
it was quite stressful. And the other thing is that I was pretty obstinate, you know. I refused to back down. I refused to step away from what I said. I refused to apologize. Because I said to them, look, this is private speech on private time, and if I back down, if I apologize, if I do anything to run away from what I've said, what kind of message am I sending my students, number one? I mean, what kind of message am I sending people if I suddenly, you know, step away from what I believe in, you know? It's freedom of speech issue, number one. Number two, I don't really disagree with what I said. Republicans are racist. Look at the Southern strategy. It requires no great intellectual leap to examine the strategy of the Republican Party and understand it as a racist strategy. It has been since the days of Nixon. And, you know, there's ample historical evidence to support this. So I refused to step away from what I said, and that annoyed people even more because they thought I should be repentant about what I said. And it annoyed them that I use fuck a lot.
Yeah.
They're really upset about that. So, you know, the argument was, had I said what I said in very kind terms, had I said it more gently, had I been a little nicer...
And nobody would have paid any attention to it.
Well, that's fine, right? No one would have paid any attention to it.
Yeah, but at the same time, then nobody... I don't know what I'm trying to say.
And, you know, it was just really fucking absurd. So I refused to apologize. I stood on my principles, and I thought, you know, I need the job, right? I needed the fucking money, but I didn't need it that bad. Like, I didn't need it bad enough for me to back down from what I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need it bad enough for me to say that I was sorry when I wasn't. I didn't need it bad enough for me to walk away from what I hold to be one of the central tenets of I mean, it's kind of optimistic and stupid of me, but I think that one of the central tenets of, you know, one of the principles of academia is freedom of speech.
Of course.
So I wasn't going to step away from that. So that created some hell for us. And after that, you know, there's a lot of scrutiny placed upon me. I was called a communist in public by members of the faculty. They argued that I was a revolutionary, you know, all this other stuff. So it was kind of crazy. It was a very crazy time, and it was very stressful. And it was just plain horrible. I mean, it doesn't sound that bad when you tell people about it, but it was ongoing for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just did not let up. It was like every day there was something else.
Mm-hmm. Somebody attacking us for whatever.
Yeah, every day it was something. And, you know, people I was working with were writing these things about people I was working with in the same buildings next door to me and things like that, you know, were writing these rather awful things about me, you know,
mm-hmm.
on our faculty list. And I would go in and confront them. They would write stuff, and I'm the kind of guy, I will just tell you what I think. So I would go to them. I would walk to their office and say, I can't believe you wrote this about me. You know, do you know? Did you even talk to me? Did you even ask me? You could have. And I think that shamed some people into actually changing their mind. You hear that?
That's the cat. That purring.
Yeah, he just stopped the tape earlier.
Yeah, he decided he wanted to jump up on the laptop.
And he scratched me as well. So, but anyway, fuck it. Let's just stop talking about this.
Okay.
It's such a downer.
It really is.
It does talk about the state of America. I mean, I think that America is insane, you know, that this could even be an issue in contemporary United States. It's just an indication of how far we've gone
mm-hmm.
towards the crazy in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. Like nuts.
Yep.
You know?
Like, yep. Free speech is okay as long as you agree with it.
Well, you know, the funny thing is I was calling them fascists. And how did they treat me? Like fascists.
Yep. They wanting to shut you up.
I was like, you know, I'm calling you a fascist and you behave like a fascist. Therefore, you are a fascist. Anyway, enough about that. So that's why I'm hated at the university. A lot of people hate me, but the students like me. I'm not hated by many students.
And students that have you know that you're fair.
I'm extremely fair.
And I mean,
I'm extremely just.
Everybody that said bad things about you have never met you.
They never even knew who I was.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It was a political game. It was meant to make the left look stupid, and it was meant to build the political career of a couple wayward students who, I don't know. Anyway.
After that, the college Republicans sort of fell apart.
Well, for good reasons.
Yeah.
We won't go into that.
Right. But anyway, but they were made to look pretty bad too.
They were. So. They were made to look pretty stupid as well. And a bunch of the students on the left got together and kind of fought against the college Republicans and really made them implode.
Yeah.
Which was good. And they deserve it. I have no sympathy for them. And one of the students who did this actually is in ROTC. And I just I don't want anyone to go to war except for him. I wouldn't feel real bad if he ended up in Iraq. I wouldn't want him to die, but I wouldn't feel bad if he spent a number of years in Iraq. Fighting the war that apparently he agrees with. So, all right, enough on that. That's so down.
Right. Please, yes, thank you.
You didn't want me to tell that story?
No, I hate when you tell that story.
Why?
Because I hate reliving all of it.
We can't run from it.
I know, but still.
It is our history.
I know.
We can't ignore our history.
Yes.
All right, let's get more on the up and up. What, are we going to have to delete this one too?
No.
Okay.
Because every time we try to do this podcast, this special podcast, it ends up being such a downer.
Well, people should know about us. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, these are our friends. These are the people that were kind enough to give us money.
True.
So I like to tell friends the story because it was a formative event for me.
This is true.
So
and I'm amazed we're still at this university, actually.
Me too. But
that's because the job market's really bad.
I like my job too.
I like where we live.
And I'm not going to let these people chase me away if I like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I have to say I kind of have a sick amount of pride about staying around just to annoy them. So that, and I like where we live. We live in a fairly big house.
We do, and it was cheap.
And it was really cheap. And it was built in 1850. It's a great old house. I mean, it needs some work, but it's a nice old house. And I don't really want to leave the house, Yeah. I like the house a lot. It's my attachment to worldly goods, or whatever the Buddhists would tell me. But anyway, being a vegan here is not so bad, I have to say. We had a vegan action group on campus we had one last year, and they were showing films and getting things together, and that was really cool. Mm-hmm. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of the members graduated, so it's not as active anymore, but...
No, it's now run by Health Food Vegan, who also works in an animal lab.
Oh, lovely.
So, I don't know. What else do you want to talk about, Jenna?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Come on, I've been talking nonstop.
I know. Well, it's because I don't know. Well, it's because it was your story.
Well, how about we get a story from you?
Well, what about?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. I don't know what to talk about.
Oh man. What do you like best about being vegan?
I like the fact that karma's not the right word for it, because I'm not doing it just so I can feel better about myself. But I do feel better knowing that I'm not participating in that which I think is wrong. Mm-hmm. And I try to minimize it to the maximum amount possible.
I hear you.
And I just feel so much better looking at other animals, knowing that I don't eat them, I don't torture them, and that I'm just trying to do things to get fewer and fewer people to want to eat them, And yep. I look at all the dairy cows as we drive past, and I feel better. I mean, I feel bad for them, because I know that at least the dairy cows there aren't as many intensive dairies where we live as in some other parts of the country. Because you do see a lot of them out in the fields, but still, that they're still killing the animals, and that there's still veal involved in all of it. So I feel bad for them, but at least, I can look the animals in the eye and know. And it just makes me feel so much better.
Yeah, it is. I like that too. I mean, I like that, knowing I'm not having a part in that. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I'm not having a part in that cruelty and that horrible system itself.
Yeah. So, and it's funny when I think we might have said this before, but when we were vegetarians, like meat did not gross me out at all.
Me neither. I would look at it and think, wow, I could probably eat that.
Yeah, right. And I think that's why we went back and forth between being vegetarians and omnis for a few years. Just because it didn't gross me out. But when we became vegan, it really started to bother me.
Me too.
A lot more and quickly. And not just meat, but milk and eggs. And now, we were at home for Christmas at my parents' house, and my parents made an egg, and I didn't even see them make it. And I smelled it. Yeah. And I could not be in the same room. I had to leave the room because the smell was just so disgusting to me.
I think it's pretty gross.
It's really weird. But no, I have my tolerance is so limited right now.
For that stuff. Yeah, me too.
That's another reason I don't like hanging out with omnis, because I can't stand looking at what they eat.
I know, it's disgusting. And we're kind of fortunate we don't have to be around them that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I always feel for the people out there who live with omnivores. I guess you get used to it, but I always feel like, man, how much must that suck to have to watch, have steak prepared in your home, or chicken, and knowing like what we know, knowing that it's torturous, knowing that animals have died for that, knowing that someone is being cooked.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It is.
It's really disgusting.
I know.
So I have a lot of problems with that as well. I absolutely do. Another thing, I don't know, it's kind of it's more about me. But my animal rights class, I'm teaching this semester, I'm teaching a class on animal rights issues.
Oh, yeah.
It's going pretty well.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going a lot better than it was last year.
Last year, I came out kind of guns blazing, kind of hard to begin with, kind of like I went really hardcore really fast with them, and with animal rights theory, So I went right into theory, right into all of it, and I think it turned them off, and I think also they don't like to think, and that put them off too. This year I went a little different tack. I began by looking at the food system, and I began only with talking about animal rights, very soft, only a little. Only very gently at the beginning. And I think this year, first off, I have a better group of students. I have a different group of students who seem to care more about the issues. Last year, I think I had a group of students that really didn't care. I had 1 or 2 students in the class of 18 that cared. This year, I've got probably 8 or 9 out of 15 that really care. And that makes a big difference because it changes the composition of the class, changes what's said in class and who's quiet and who talks and all that. So this year, more than half the class really cares, I think. And I began we began by talking about some of these animal rights issues, and people were bringing up things that I thought were kind of advanced. So I said, look, I can show you some films. So I showed them Peaceable Kingdom, and they were sad, and some of them liked it, and they said, well, let's see more. So, okay, I'll show you The Witness. So I showed them The Witness, and they said, my God, that's sad, but we want to see more. And I said, look, all I got left are basically, like the nuclear weapons of the films, and that's essentially Earthlings, And I said, this is a tough movie to watch. I don't think I want to watch it again. But if you want to watch it, I'll show it to you. So, the cat's doing crazy stuff here.
He's quite happy. He's rolling around.
We're really on his table. This is his table. I mean,
yes.
Let's be realistic. So anyway, I said, fine, you want to see it? And they said, we want to know the truth behind all of this. And this is amazing to me, like students who want to know the truth, right? So, I showed them Earthlings. They took the red pill. And that's the way Glitter's put it in an email to me, who's on our forums. Yeah. So they did it, and they watched it, and they were stunned, Yep. Some of them said they had a really hard time with it. And I think it's great. It is a hard movie to watch, but it's good to watch because it reminds you of what we do. And what's in the film isn't exaggerated, it's real. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah. But that's amazing that they want to know, because most of the reaction you get from people, students, everybody, is like, I don't want to know. I just want to live, blissfully ignorant. I just want to eat my steak and not feel guilty about it. So they don't want to know. But it's amazing that they want to know and make the decision for themselves.
I agree. Most people don't want to know. They prefer not to know. What I have a hard time with, though, is you watch a film like Earthlings, and then you go and still keep doing what you do. How do people do that?
I don't know. I don't get it.
How does that happen? I would think that film would turn you off for at least a little while.
I would think.
I
don't know. I watched Peaceable Kingdom, which is, like you said, the least bad out of all of them, and I cried through that movie. I mean, I cried through The Witness. It's like, because the feelings that knowing all the bad things that happen to these animals just makes me so, upset that I can't help it.
It's horrible.
And I don't know. It's just, so I couldn't even stand to watch everything.
Yeah, it's not cool.
No.
But, I could tell there were a lot of them holding back tears.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, it's good for them,
Yep.
It's absolutely good for them.
That's good to see.
Yeah,
there's some hope.
I think there is some hope. I mean, I this is something I think about a lot, actually. I wonder how we can get people to see what it is that they do and to get them to understand that animals feel.
Mm-hmm.
They know. And what Earthlings does is it really, really cogently puts on the table this idea that animals are like us in the important respects. They're like us insofar as they feel pain.
Yeah.
They're like us insofar as they want comfort. They're like us insofar as they feel lonely and sad and happy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't appeal to people, I have such a hard time understanding what does.
I know. I mean, you see, I don't know how anyone could have a cat or a dog or any sort of companion animal and does not get it, because they are so different. They have such emotion. I mean, look at our cat. Is sitting here, wants to be so close to us, is sitting here underneath my microphone, purring like crazy.
Rolling around,
trying to almost hit some of the knobs on the...
He did hit one of the knobs, but I held it so it wouldn't move. Hit one of the knobs on the mixer.
And he's just like having a great old time, just sitting here, nice and warm under the lamp by the computer.
He loves his table too.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is you come to know animals and you come to know that they have desires and wants. And I asked my students in class today, I said, how many of you have dogs at home? And almost all of them raised their hand. And I said, how many of you sleep with your dog when you're home? And about 3/4 of those people raised their hand. I said, how many of you sleep with anybody else from your family? Nobody raised their hand. And I'm like, here you are, sleeping with a dog, with an animal, yet many of you will walk out of here and go eat another animal. And do you think that the animal you're eating is any less capable of that kind of love than your dog?
Yeah. They're just not as fuzzy and cute.
Yeah. Well, that got them thinking, though.
Good.
So
I'm glad.
It's good. They're coming along. I don't have to pull out the big guns with them usually. Mm-hmm. They want to know on their own, and it's good. It gives me some hope. It makes me think that there is, in fact, some hope. Kitty, don't destroy the mixer. No! No. I'm just going to poke him until he moves. Stop. So, I don't know. This is probably the least exciting podcast we've ever done.
I don't know. It's good to tell stories, though. I mean, stories you wouldn't want everybody to hear.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want everybody to hear my Republican
yeah.
horror story.
Yeah.
And, oh my God, don't scratch the iBook. The cat's like going wacko on the iBook here. I don't want everyone to hear my Republican story because it's kind of like, I don't know, touchy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So, yeah, but whatever.
Well, let me ask you a question out there, all you donating people. If you haven't fallen asleep yet, let me ask you a question. We're contemplating an idea, kicking an idea around. And I'm wondering what you think of the idea. The idea is that rather than having flat out donations like you've been generous enough to give, we would have something like a $4 a month subscription that people could pay $4 a month, and it would be recurring. It would just, PayPal would automatically deduct it from your account. Or you could pay a year in advance or 6 months in advance. Of course, we would grandfather in all of you who have already paid, right? You'd already be prorated or whatever into the whole system. So even if you've paid like years, not years ago, we've been going for years, but you paid months ago, we would just automatically say, okay, you've paid X number of months at that point, right? As a way of appreciation for what you've already done. But what do you think of that idea? The reason that we want to do it, oh, please don't turn off the mixer. There's switches back there. The reason we want to do it is because the podcast is taking increasing amounts of time. I mean, probably between us, we put 20, 25 hours a week into it.
It's mostly you, so.
Yeah, I put at least 15 hours a week into the podcast every week. And I have a full-time job that takes 40 to 60 hours a week. And I run the forums, and I run a publishing company. And I like to occasionally see my wife.
It's nice, yeah.
And I like to do things like eat and bathe and things like that. So I'm running out of time is what's happening. I'm having a huge time crunch. And one way that I could alleviate that time crunch would be with more equipment. If I had some capital, I could get my hands on equipment that could cut my processing time, which is where most of the time goes, down from about 12 to 15 hours to about 1 hour. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, that's pretty significant, especially when my time is so tight, and it has been really tight lately. And if any of you send me email, you know, like, it takes me a week to get back to you, and I feel bad about that, mostly because of this kind of stuff. So what we're thinking is that we would start up maybe a subscription program, try to get people to subscribe to the podcast, to raise a little capital over time, to pay for server costs, and to maybe try to get some better equipment so that we could cut some of that processing time down and make this still keep going at the level we're going in terms of the content, but make it a little more manageable for us. So what do you think of that idea? I'm curious to hear what people think.
And also what would be good incentives for people? Because, of course, you know, if you can get it for free, why would you pay for it?
Yeah, exactly.
So we need something to incentivize. And since you already paid for it, you would be a good judge of why, you know, what things we could do. I mean,
I've been thinking T-shirt
buttons, something that we could give, you know, that wouldn't cost us a ton, but it would be nice enough to give out. Yeah, so.
And something that wouldn't take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at, and I'm curious what people think of that. We have also randomly kicked around the idea of having NPR-style sponsorship on the show. Each show would begin by, this episode of Vegan Freak Radio is sponsored by, I don't know, whatever.
Herbivore Magazine or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Or somebody, you know.
Yeah.
And that would be it. It wouldn't be an ad. It would just be kind of a sponsored by, a little plug, and that'd be another way for us to raise some cash. I mean, what it comes down to is not really that we want to make a profit on this, but that we could use some equipment and we could use some money to go towards our increasing distribution costs. This isn't us begging to you because you've already given us money.
Yeah, so we're not asking you to give us more money.
No, we're just asking you what you think. So if you have feedback on that, we'd really appreciate it. It'd be nice to hear what you think. And I just want to, here's what I want to do. I want to make this thing sustainable. I want to keep it going. I want to keep doing this. But at the rate it's going, I'm fearing that it's not going to be a sustainable cattail on the mixer.
There we go.
Okay. Anyway, no, he's on the knobs. No. Oh, no. Shit. I think he just changed the equalizer.
Uh-oh.
Well, let's see what happens here.
Each.
Oh,
no. Okay. No.
He's attacking me.
He really doesn't want you to touch the knobs.
He really doesn't. He really does not want me to touch. Hey, wait, I haven't played. Can we play?
Okay.
Let's see.
The funny thing is, he'll do this in my office too. He'll sit right next to my keyboard.
Uh-huh.
And then he'll get mad at me when I type and try and tack my fingers. Yeah, he's the one who wants to sit right next to the keyboard.
Of course.
Or on the keyboard. He especially likes the function keys.
What does this do?
What are you doing?
I'm trying to turn on some effects.
Oh. All I hear is a buzz.
Yeah, me too.
It's not good.
Okay. Anyway, screw the effects. I can play with them later. So anyway, we would love your feedback on that. If you have some, send it to us or get in touch with us in the chat room or anything like that. We would really like to know what you think. It's not that, like I said, we don't want to make a lot of money or anything. We would like to have some money just to get some better equipment. We're doing 2 hours a show a week on equipment that is far less than professional, and it works, but it requires a lot of work around in order to make this stuff sound pretty good and all this other stuff. So anyway, the point is, it'd be nice to have better stuff because we could really cut the time down significantly.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to cut the radio down.
No, we really like doing the podcast, and we love getting all the feedback from people that, enjoy listening to us, and that keeps us going. So
it does. And but if the thing's going to be sustainable, I think eventually some kind of change is going to probably have to happen down the road. So.
Yep.
Well, anyway, we really appreciate the money. I can't tell you how much we do.
Yes.
It surprises me all the time that people value what we do, and I'm glad you do. And it touches us both as well.
Definitely.
Not in like a dirty, pervy way. Although if you want to touch us in dirty, pervy ways for money, we could talk about that too.
Oh, man. No.
I'll let somebody touch me in a dirty, pervy way for money.
Really?
Sure. It depends on how much money.
Oh, great.
I'm kidding.
Uh-huh. Bob's going to be sleeping on the couch tonight.
Why? So.
Just kidding.
I'm only kidding. Well, maybe I'm not. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all very much.
And, well, enjoy your special little podcast.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too much of a downer.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't too boring. I feel like it was boring.
Yeah.
I feel like our show's boring a lot, and people write to me and tell me it isn't.
Okay, well, then.
Maybe this is one of those cases. Or maybe people write to me and say, it really sucked and it was boring, so please don't do it again.
Well, tell us one way or the other.
Yeah, we like to hear. So. And we won't make fun of you, I promise.
No.
We don't make fun of people we like.
No, we don't.
No. Only dumb people like Ricky C. Oh, that, and there was a funny review of our book on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Someone who got offended by our comment about the middle-aged people.
Should I open that before we go?
Sure.
Okay, I'll open that, and then we'll read that, and we'll talk about that, then we'll go.
Okay.
All right, so we have dead air, Jenna. Come on.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, yeah, so, a lot of people don't appreciate the language in our book, as you already know, because we get plenty of emails about that, and the language in our podcast. I don't know, man. Do these people, not have cable or something?
Yeah, really. I mean, what kind of like media environment do they live in?
I know, like whoever said that you had to speak about serious subjects without, not, only using serious language. What the hell? Doesn't make sense to me.
I like this. This review's great. This is one of my favorites, actually. Somewhat annoying. This reviewer is S. Lee at North Dakota, USA. North Dakota. Famously friendly to vegans.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I tried to remain in the spirit of the book, hip, cool, a bit off the cuff, but the author started to become like the guest who thinks she or he is very, very clever and never shuts up. That'd be me, yeah. I'm like that. I am actually no, I'm really not like that in person. Maybe I am on the radio. I started to wonder why I invited them over for the evening. As a middle-aged vegan, I arrived at being fully annoyed with their pithy observation, quote, "Don't let the self-involved middle-aged ex-hippie types scare you away from the good thing a co-op can be. Really, some respect for your predecessors, please. I recommend as a better choice for an overview book on veganism, The Vegan Sourcebook by Joanne Stepaniak. Well, at least if you are middle-aged." Grumpy old lady. I read that review yesterday. I was laughing my ass off. It's hilarious.
I know.
So I thought that was really good. We had some nice reviews on Amazon, though. A lot of nice ones.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate those. But I thought that one was kind of funny because it kind of proves us right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, self-involved middle-aged ex-hippie talking about herself. Anyway.
You can't take a joke.
It really is just a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, hippies hate jokes, though.
Oh, they do. Anyway.
About them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the bumper sticker that says, "I killed Jerry Garcia." That's the best. The best ever. Okay. We're done.
Okay.
No more. That's it. And thank you all.
Yes.
And catch our regular radio show. We'll have one on this week.
Yep, we will.
We're having a good one this week coming up.
Yeah, it'll be heavy, but it'll be good.
It'll be heavy, but good. So hang in there. And thank you again for everything.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hope you're all doing well.
This is Bob.
And Jenna.
And long time ago, we promised people who donated to us a private podcast.
Yes.
And we never fulfilled on that promise until now.
Because we're slackers.
No, it isn't that we're slackers. It's that we're busy people.
We're busy, yeah.
Running a vegan media empire is a lot of work.
It is.
No, it's not that we are slackers. It's that every time we thought about doing it, we didn't. And we sat down and do it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up doing things we didn't like.
Yeah,
so
didn't come out well. Yeah.
So I don't know, but we did think we should make good on our promise, even though we made it to you many, many months ago, and here we are doing a special little private podcast for donators only.
Because we really, really appreciate your help. I mean, without your help, we really wouldn't be in a position to do what we do. So
that's absolutely true. Without the support that we got, and we've gotten generous support from many of you. Well, from all of you, because you're all listening. Without your generous support, we certainly would not be in the situation that we're in now, which is to say that, you helped us grow, you helped us out a lot, you helped us get some equipment and some services and some other stuff that we needed to really make this thing work. And I think without your help early on and all throughout, we certainly wouldn't be in a position that we're in right now. And we appreciate it so much.
Definitely.
And, you're to be commended because it's not like you had to give any money to get the show.
No, not at all.
And we really appreciate that. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to us to know that you care enough to send the very best. Story is that I have this friend who is a really nice guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from the moment we went vegan, I don't think he's gotten it. You know, he hasn't gotten there. He's not like with it.
Not at all.
He's a vegetarian though.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think he would be not cool with it. His wife's really cool with it.
Yeah, she loves cooking for us.
She does indeed.
I mean, she really gets a kick out of it and is so excited when we love her food. So
we do love her food too. Yeah. She's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
But this friend of ours is a vegetarian, and when we first became vegan, he kept hinting at. Well, he kept hinting all along. Actually, not when we first became vegan. When we first came out with the book.
Mm-hmm. It was more that first came out of the book.
Yeah, it was when we first came out with the book. He kept hinting to us that maybe we were being a little too dogmatic.
Mm-hmm.
That veganism is such an extreme stance that perhaps it's just way too out there. And that in its dogmatism, it ignores people's feelings and all this other stuff. So he hinted at this a couple of times, and not wanting to get in an argument with him about it, I kind of just let it go. You know, I did my centered, peaceful Bob. I just let it kind of drift away. Right?
Right.
But one day we were at their place, and they had argued right before we came. So they had an argument right before we had shown up. And they were mad at each other, and as a result, this friend of ours was kind of ornery. He was really kind of pissy.
He was wound up, yeah.
He's wound up. He's a little wound up. And so we were hanging out with them for a little while, and we were upstairs, and he showed us this little room he has where he meditates and stuff. And we were leaving the room, and he stops us and says, "Do you know what?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm going to tell you now why I could never be vegan."
You're like, what do you say to that?
And you know, I hear that and I think, well, holy hell. So I say to him, "Look, man, if you want to tell me, that's fine, but you got to be sure you want to go here, you know, because if you go here, I'm going to bring out the big guns." You know, if you want to talk about this, fine, we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. You know, we'll get into it. But if we are going to talk about it, we're going to talk, and I'm not going to hold back, and you're going to know why I think being a vegetarian is ridiculous. Right? So at that point, he said, "Okay, well, I'll tell you, you know, a little bit." And he kept saying things like, "Oh, you know, I don't think it's so bad to drink the milk of a cow because you don't kill the cow." And then dinner was ready, so we got sidetracked after that. We kind of got cut short, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we ate dinner, and then after dinner, I was in the kitchen helping him prepare some tea, and he started in again about the veganism, you know, and he basically said to me that he felt like it was too dogmatic, right? That it established these rigid boundaries for our diet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
B, that it was going too far. That you care enough to, well. Cash is the very best, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
That you care enough to send us cash, and it means it's great. And you know, one of the things that's been great about it is that we get a lot of email where people tell us that this show has helped them go vegan or stay vegan,
mm-hmm.
or feel less lonely as a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we didn't get money, I think that's why I would still keep doing it. You know, even if we had to pay money, I would still keep doing it that way.
I agree.
Because it's really important, I think, to help people out.
It is, definitely. So
yeah. Well, anyway, we thought what we would do is originally we promised we would send you these in the mail, but then I realized that probably wouldn't work really well because, well, we're slackers. Let me tell you what we're going to do. You already know what's going to happen. You've gotten an email about this already, so you'll know that you're getting this. We will get buttons out to all of you too, which we did promise. So
okay.
What?
Cool. Yeah. All right.
We are going to.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I know.
So what?
Nothing.
You want peace?
No.
All right. I didn't think so. So on this podcast, since it's kind of like for a smaller audience, we thought we'd talk about things that we may not normally talk about on the air.
Yep.
Like what, Jenna?
No, it's just like funny stories or more about us.
Yeah. I don't know if you really care to know more about us, but I think some people do. I mean, weird people write to me and ask me things about my regular life, and it's kind of strange. So, but I do want to share with you a story, though.
Yeah. Which story?
A story.
Okay, tell us a story.
Well, it's not that happy of a story. And see that, you know, eating the milk and eggs of an animal doesn't kill the animal. which is completely absurd. If you're a vegan, you know that this is nuts, because eggs and dairy depend upon the death of animals, right? I mean,
yes, so millions of millions of animals, and the suffering, not just the death, but the suffering.
Right, the death, the suffering, and all that. And so he said his essential argument came down to this after I pushed him. His argument was, look, we must respect suffering. We must respect suffering. So I'm like, great. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to live my life by an ethic that respects suffering, you know? We must respect suffering, but we must first respect the suffering being inside of us. You know, the first being that we should respect the suffering of is ourselves. And if that suffering being desires milk and eggs to be happy, then we should give in and respect the suffering inside of all of us.
It's so fucking selfish.
That's what I said. It's completely selfish, because I said to him, look, the suffering that you feel for cheese is nothing compared to the suffering that a dairy cow feels when it is living its life 2 or 3 years, you know, for 2 or 3 years when it could be living 20 years. It's nothing in comparison. There's not.
So the suffering of that calf who's not getting that milk because you are.
And the calf who's being killed for veal, right? I mean, this is all obvious stuff for us. And so I explained to him the dynamics behind veal production. I explained for him the dynamics behind dairy production. I explained to him how consuming milk is essentially supporting the slaughter of cows, right? Because they milk for 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're just burnt and they're dead. They're sent to slaughter because they're non-productive.